Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 23rd day of January, Thursday here. Got a great show with you on for tonight. Jason Patterson, who covers the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, covers the Kansas City Chiefs. Talk to the Kansas City Chief players. Going to ask him a few questions about this week's game, huge game against the Buffalo Bills tonight. Maybe even to get some insight on, was it Borgazzi? The general manager that the Titans hired here. Going to ask him about that. Mark Andrews finally comes out. I don't know why the tight end coach or somebody didn't tell Mark Andrews, listen, man, you had a rough day. The world saw it. Go ahead and own it and be done with it. But he puts out this statement today. I got a few comments about that. Bill Belichick finally signs his contract. So I think he will coach officially the North Carolina Tar Heels this year. So we got a little bit of insight on their opening day, and also crazy stuff with the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Jacksonville Jaguars situation. Kind of an odd situation there. I'll comment on. So first, let's take our first and only break. I'll be back here momentarily, and we will hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
All right, great intro there. Hello, everybody. Okay, interesting story here out of Baltimore there with the Ravens. Mark Andrews. Listen, he probably had he had his worst moment in NFL career on Sunday night with the strip fumble. And, of course, we know about the infamous now drop 2-point conversion that would have potentially sent the game into overtime. Of course, there's a little over a minute left. Buffalo could have came back and got a game-winning field goal. They were down 8. But, he seems to be taking it pretty hard. Don't really, like I said before the break, I think that I didn't realize this until the other day. This was Sunday night's game, that he had totally avoided the media after this incident had happened, or not incident, after he had this rough game. And, that's the worst thing you should do. Like I said before the break, the tight ends coach, or even John Harbaugh himself, should have went up to Mark and said, listen, it's a team sport. There's a lot of big play, and this is true. He's made over his career. He's been the number one guy for Lamar Jackson before they got Zay Flowers. He's the most consistent player out there. He was the second tight end drafted in the same draft. If y'all recall, there was another tight end drafted ahead of him. I think it was Hayden Hurst out of Arkansas, matter of fact. I got Jason Patterson coming on 30 minutes past the hour. He covers Arkansas. But Andrews, I want to say, was like a second-round pick or something like that. May have been a later-round pick. And he just outplayed everybody. He's a very consistent guy. Signed a big second contract here, coming up on the last year of his contract. And I want to say it was Jason McIntyre said this does not play well in the playoffs. He cringes up and, makes some big mistakes on Sunday. Seems to be, couldn't even show his face out in public. I understand nowadays it is emphasized, because as soon as you pick up your phone and go on, like these young guys don't realize you can live life without social media. Have your family and friends, have them on text. You don't have to get on social media. Michael Jordan's pretty good. He's still number one seller in shoes in America still, and he's been, over 20 years he's been retired from the NBA. Don't have a social media account. So it can be done. But I would recommend, you don't see this much in football as you have in baseball or even golf, for example, these mental lapses like this and pressure-filled anxiety with these type of games. I remember this going back 15, 20 years ago. Alex Rodriguez, when he first went to the Yankees, sought out a sports psychologist, and he later credits that, it really helped him. It really helped him in the 2009 World Series. So, and then you look at a John Smoltz going back to 1991, seeking out a sports psychologist, and it helps him out. So, as far as that's concerned, that's what I would do if I'm Mark Andrews. Don't sweat it. But also, as far as the Ravens are concerned, I do not think their window is closed. I do think, like I mentioned the other day, that Lamar Jackson, he does get a little too amped up for these games. He has had problems in the past, although he's gotten better and much improved about it. Throwing this way back into games, coming back and whatnot, went down, particularly in playoffs games. But I do think this guy maybe get his third MVP, like a Peyton Manning, who didn't get his first playoff win to his fifth year in the league. This guy was in year 3, I want to say. Yeah, against Tennessee in 2020. So I think everything's going to be fine with this team. Now, as far as Mark Andrews is concerned, I said this, I think on the X out before, because I know he's coming into a contract year, and I know Jackson's cap number is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They could possibly move off him, get a 3rd or 4th round draft pick for Mark Andrews, who'll be 30 years old coming up this year in 25. So a lot they can do, especially with the emergence of Isaiah Likely. That was trending today. Thought I would talk about it. Interesting storyline there. Also, Bill Belichick. This has been the talk of both college and professional. Bill Belichick had accepted the job for the Carolina Tar, a little bit of Carolina blue. I don't know. This may be closer to Duke with this tone. With the Carolina Tar Heels back in December the 12th, 2 weeks before Christmas, he said, yes, I'm going to take that job with the Tar Heels. then then the story started coming out about him wanting to bring on his son, which he later did. His son was defensive coordinator with Washington. His son's going to be, I guess, the coordinator with him at Carolina. And then his son is supposed to take over for him at when he's done at Carolina. Also came out about his contract that after June 25th, the buyout goes down to $1 million. That's $10 million now, which $10 million to these NFL owners is nothing, especially some of these higher-end billionaire types. Somebody like Jerry Jones could buy that out without any issue. But it goes down to $1 million after the 25th of June. Today, we're talking almost a month later, he officially signs the contract. I think what he's going to do, like I said from the get-go, it looks like he's going to take this job. He's going to get set up the first year, get the foundation set. He's going to be training his son on the job. There'll be 6 or 7 more NFL jobs that will come open next year, just like it was 6 or 7 this year. Maybe something happens with the Eagles. What if the Eagles lose Sunday? What if there's another fallout there with the Eagles and he takes that Eagles job? Maybe that happens. I don't know. Maybe there's another fire in there. What if the Dolphins down in Miami get tired of McDaniels? They want to bring in Belichick, Stephen Ross, whose teams have went against him for years and years and years back when he was up in Buffalo. Wouldn't it be nice for him, kind of like Jimmy Johnson, to go down to Miami and do that? But my point is, I think he's just setting everything up for his son to take, which is terrible for the Carolina. That's just kind of a crappy way to do things. I've had Jenny Paul on here, the son of Gabe Paul, one of the owners, minority owner of the Yankees and general manager there in the 77 Yankees that won the World Series with Reggie Jackson, said her dad wouldn't even let her interview Catfish Hunter. She didn't want to get he did not want his own daughter to be perceived to get any preferential treatment, because if something goes down or goes back south, it won't be because he caused her to lose the job, and he doesn't want people, the public perspective, to say that she did not earn it, knowing that she did. So that was pretty extreme, but hey, it is what it is. You want your kids to learn. And that's the same thing. And I'm really disappointed Bill Belichick wouldn't do that for his son with the extreme work ethic that he has to pass it down. So that's what's going to happen there. It's unfortunate. I would hope for him to stay there. I thought that maybe he would look at the Bears job, possibly the Cowboys job before this, because I was thinking, I keep reading this, man, it's been a week. Belichick hadn't signed a contract. It's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Now it's been a month, and now he's finally signed the contract here. He's moving down there with his 24-year-old girlfriend. He'll fit right in with those college young women. Well, we still got plenty of time here. What a crazy story, folks, out of, yesterday I had talked about, this guy, Trent Baalke. He's now the former general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this job, it was my number 3 job in the power rankings of head coaching jobs available, okay, behind the Patriots and behind the Bears. And, you got quarterback, you got pass rush, you got left tackle there, you got excellent skill player there in Brian Thomas, you got running back there in ETN. You're in Jacksonville. It's not too bad. And for this guy to be so toxic of a person to be around, and Trent Baalke, this general manager there, who the owner liked some of the players he brought in, and I kind of disagree with him. I did think he missed when they had the number 1 overall pick a few years ago. He should have took Aiden Hutchinson instead of the other guy he took from Georgia. The other guy was just a better athlete. Hutchinson, a better pass rusher. But the guy out of Georgia wasn't that bad a player. He just wasn't as good as Hutchinson. And I mentioned that Byron Leftwich did an interview for the job. He said, man, I don't work with that guy. Jim Harbaugh couldn't get along with him. I cut him some slack because Harbaugh couldn't get along with Kevin Warren, the president of Chicago, either. So I kind of cut him a little slack there. But then you get Byron Leftwich. Now there's a story out today that this guy's a pretty hot commodity too. This Liam Cohen, the reason why he was fired on the spot, pretty much. I'm talking about he meaning Cohen there is because of Bulky. And this is after it was widely reported that the owner had let it be known that they would not have to report to Bulky. And how bad does it have to be? How bad does it have to be? And you say, well, you repeat the same story. Well, no, not really. The issue is that this guy, Liam Cohen, now he's back on. Okay, here's what I'm getting. Ann Rappaport says coaching searches get crazy. Bucks agreed to an extension. This guy had already agreed to go back to the Bucks as an offense because he's had some good chemistry there with Baker Mayfield. He's continuing on what the other coordinator did. Okay, but Ann Rappaport's saying searches can get crazy. This is a new one. Bucks agreed to an extension, but it wasn't signed. No contract at all between Cohen and the Bucks. The Jaguars situation changed dramatically. Now he's in the Jacksonville building discussion, the head coaching job. And then Jordan Schultz, another reporter here, says he's interviewing a second time for Jaguars for their head coaching job. Cohen previously elected to remain with Tampa after Bulky was fired. I guess he slept on it and said, well, Bulky's not going to be there. I had a guy when I graduated college, and foolish enough, and a lot of you know me personally, when I was foolish enough to walk away from a job out of Laughlin, Nevada as a newspaper reporter, I had an issue with a guy there too as well, this guy. And the boss had told me that I could just report to him, the big boss. And he said, this guy's really hard to deal with. That's fine. And plus, I wanted them to pay me more money because they kept giving me more and more job titles. And they were going to give me a raise, but I didn't think they was going to give me the one I wanted. So I got frustrated, got a little homesick, went home, and took a job at my old security job. But they got a new account, big raises from 9-something an hour. We're talking 2007 here, all the way up to 12 and 14 for supervisors, and I qualified for a supervisor without my credentials on this state account. And I met up with some guys during training there, and I remember this guy telling me that him and about 5 of his friends, good guy that's been on this program before, and he says, we all went here to get away from this one supervisor. And he had followed us over here. And this guy really took his job too serious. We thought he just simply had mental problems. It was that bad. He was very extreme with all the rules. He went beyond what the post orders did. He was really a wannabe cop, real toxic, very disrespectful to people. Embarrassed the officers out in public in front of the state employees. And eventually he got moved and whatnot. But I think about a guy like Trent Baalke. It got to the point where people not only just didn't want to work, they didn't want to be in the same room with this guy. He was that toxic, and he eventually got himself in trouble, and they eventually fired him. But the company, which they love those military guys, but they didn't have to deal with them. The upper management didn't have to deal with him. They thought that, people were complaining because he was people didn't want to work. He wasn't keeping them in line. But it just got to the point where nobody wanted to work with him, and they eventually had to move off. I feel like that's the same thing with this guy. And the problem with Trent Baalke is the football world knows about this. The NFL is so publicized now, But I never seen one like this. There were other managers that coaches didn't like to deal with, but the fact that this guy does not have any power over the coaches, and for good coaches to back out just because they didn't even want to have to run into this guy in the hallway, is that he must really, really have a sour personality. So I don't know how he gets a job ever working with people. Maybe he's a good talent evaluator, and he's one of those people that looks at he's just good at just looking at film. He knows what to spot and stuff like that. Player personnel evaluator, and then he deals with one other person, gives the information, then the other person rolls with the information. Maybe he can get a job doing something like that, but any kind of a hands-on management, I couldn't imagine him getting this, because now the Buccaneers essentially got to look for an offensive coordinator, and the Jacksonville's a little bit behind on their coaching search, So I thought that was pretty interesting stuff here. This guy was that toxic that the good candidates, because I was thinking, man, Jacksonville's got everything, and this guy just ran off a lot of talent. Why aren't they contacting Mike McCarthy? I think Mike McCarthy's going to sit this one out. If I'm McCarthy, I don't want to go to the Raiders. Definitely don't want to go to New Orleans. New Orleans don't realize they got a problem. The general manager there, was it Mickey Loomis? I mean, they've been 50. They got the worst cap problem in the whole NFL. They're $56 million over the cap every year. 1 year, $100 million. And this guy refuses to just hit the reset button and start over and get totally under the cap and get the team rebuilt. He keeps putting off the inevitable because I guess the owner likes him and letting him do it. So that's why nobody took that job. They're not picking high enough to get a franchise quarterback, and they don't have enough money to go get to beef up the roster. So they're between a rock and a hard place. And the Raiders are the Raiders. Now, I said it was better than the Saints. Raiders got a lot of money. They've got the 6th pick, and they do have some skill players. Brock Bowers, a phenom of a tight end there to throw to, and they got an edge rusher there and whatnot. Now, I want to say the left tackle's not that bad either. So, we'll see. I think Pete Carroll may take that Raider job, but nothing's been official yet. Now, everything is still kind of floating out there. And Brian Schottenheimer is interviewing for the Dallas job. That's what they've succumbed to. But, side note about Bill Belichick, who is officially, by the way, if you just tuned in, he has actually signed his contract. He hadn't signed a contract, and it's been over a month. He agreed to take the job in December the 12th. This other note that I got here, and I didn't mention it earlier, that he will make his coaching debut on Monday, September 1st. That's Labor Day weekend against TCU. That will be a highly televised game, and it will be on ESPN. It will be on ESPN at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. Cannot wait. Also, the 31st is when the first there's a big game coming on the 31st as well. Hey, listen, folks, the seasons are getting longer, and it seems like it's getting Notre Dame will play at Miami on Sunday, August 31st. So August the 30th, we'll get to see college football. August the 30th will be the start there. That's that big Saturday there. So that's Labor Day weekend. Here it is, January. So about 8 months and 1 week. 7 months. 7 months and 1 week. So we're right there at it here. Coming up here shortly. So also, and by the way, now Robert Saleh has landed in Jacksonville, what we're supposed to be an interview for tomorrow. So he supposedly, according to Jordan Schultz, you can't make this stuff up. Liam Cohen is interviewing for the second time, and Robert Saleh, that's the former Jets coach. That's what they said come to. So Saleh was probably scheduled to come for the to come to be interviewed because Cohen had backed out. And Saleh was probably their 5th or 6th choice there to interview for this job because nobody else wanted to deal with Trent Baalke. I mean, that's just, you hear this stuff all the time. Maybe it's more prevalent. Maybe this has probably been the norm for years, but we've never had social media like this where all the reporters have phones and they can just put this stuff out and we've got it just like that. We've got more inside than we've ever had before in the NFL. I was just finishing up watching Hard Knocks and the rough loss there for the last team in the AFC North, which was Baltimore. And then maybe they do another one, but it seemed like they were wrapping it up this past week. We've also had a Hard Knocks for the first time that I can ever remember, where they went into the Hard Knocks behind the scenes from the management side, and as far as what they had to do to deal with the NFL draft. I hope they do that again. Maybe they'll do it for the Tennessee Titans, But we shall see. We shall see. Now, NFL Rookie Watch, by the way, speaking of the Titans, it's another site I follow, going over some news and notes. Now, this thing is changing constantly. I followed the NFL scouting site and Rookie Watch, and what's this other one I follow here? Rookie Watch. So they just get all kinds of stuff here. It's off of the X app. It says, there's reporting belief that NFL scouts that are between 4 and 6 quarterbacks to be selected in the first round. Now, a week ago, that wasn't the case. I would go through this every year where it's not a quarterback draft. Then you start to get more in the offseason. We've got the East-West Shrine game Saturday. Next Saturday, which is the week before the Super Bowl, every year down in Mobile, hopefully the snow will be gone, you have the Senior Bowl. And then guys' stocks start to go up and down and rumors start to float, and then you start to get it. So my point is, you just never know what this all, and then again, it could be smoke signals. But this site says that belief that scouts between 4 and 6 quarterbacks could be selected in the first round. Outside of Schroeder Sanders and Cam Ward, multiple scouts have first-round grades on Jackson Dart, who stock was really high at the beginning. That's quarterback out of Ole Miss. It dipped. Now apparently it's back up because of film of him out-dueling Jaden Daniels, and we know what kind of star Jalen Daniels is. So this is the drama will continue. Jalen Milroe, of course, from Alabama. Cal McCord, who used to be with Ohio State, is transferred to Syracuse. I've been hearing stuff about him on Fox Sports. And then Will Howard, who just completed a national championship. That'd be 6 quarterbacks that would potentially be selected in the first round, which would tie the 2024 class. However, multiple scouts repeatedly believe there's no way this class ends up being better than 24. The 25 draft could be quarterback heavy. So that would really, in one way, that would hurt a team with the number 1 pick. In another way, you think, okay, there's a major need for quarterbacks. We know that teams like the Raiders definitely need a quarterback. The Saints can use a quarterback. Okay, Titans here can use a quarterback. Contrary to what the reports say, the Cleveland Browns could use a quarterback because they don't know how bad that Deshaun Watson's injury is. The Giants are picking 3rd, need a quarterback. So those are teams that definitely need a quarterback, especially the Giants and the Titans and the Raiders. It's not even close with those teams, And quite frankly, the Jets. Look at Aaron Rodgers' age there. Jets need a quarterback per se. So a lot to be happening there. We still got about 3 months or so to see what happens there. Now, of course, it's just internet rumors. I've read some of the craziest stuff you would ever think of on this on these apps here, and it seems. Let me make sure my guy, he's supposed to be on here, Jason Pattison. He's finishing up another show. He's going to be on here. He's from the Pig Trail Nation. Let me make sure and get his questions ready because I'm sure he's going to pop up on here at any second here. Jason covers the Kansas City Chiefs. He's met some of the players. He's been to the camps and whatnot. I want to get his thoughts on the national championship because he also covers Arkansas Razorbacks there. He's well-versed in the SEC and whatnot. I was going to ask him about, you got guys in Fox Sports and Colin Cowherd saying, well, what about the Big Ten? Is the Big Ten now the powerhouse in college football since they won back-to-back national championships? Is the SEC going to be faded out because maybe they can't get the money raised? Well, I think that's a bunch of nonsense. Texas can raise money, and I think Alabama and Georgia can raise money, and it just means more down here. So going to ask him that, but we shall see. We shall see. Only time will tell here, and I'm just waiting for him as we speak. He may be getting held over. He may be held over in the other show. But anyways, like I was saying, you just don't know what to think. And now, I was talking about a team like the Titans with the first overall pick. You got Cleveland with the second overall pick, and you just got to do your homework of these players. You got to weigh out all your options. As I mentioned the other day, if I'm Tennessee, the first thing I do is, and the general manager, the new GM said this the other day, he mentioned the fact that the phone is already ringing. The phone's already been ringing about what do they want to trade this first overall pick? And I'm saying to myself, well, we're going to listen to the highest bidder and we'll see what happens. Because if you get a team like the Las Vegas Raiders that want to trade up 5 spots to number 1, they're going to have to give up a king's ransom to do so. And if I'm Tennessee, I cut no slack there. You know, I go far back as 2000, I want to say 12, when Robert Griffin III with 3 first-round picks, and I want to say a second-round pick as well for the Rams, something heavy like that. Now, that was only coming up from, I want to say 4-2 or something like that to get Robert Griffin in that particular draft. So you're talking about 5 spots here. You know, I just think the Raiders are crazy enough to do that. Haven't heard anything else, by the way, on the Deion Sanders talk. That's gotten really quiet. You know, I want to make sure my guys got this thing. I don't know what waiting on Jason Patterson here, which it's going to cut down on our time here because of and by the way, I'm watching. I know we're still in football season, but there are some NBA stories out there. This Jimmy Butler stuff I'm reading right now in NBA on TNT. Things get heated. This is on their X site in studio as the fellas talk about Jimmy Butler. So he could be traded any minute now. And I'm on Jimmy Butler watch as well. I'm just letting you all know that. And plus, Diana Rossini, she put out a post here on the X app. She says, if Cohen takes the Jacksonville job, which we don't know what's going to happen there, now that Bulky's out of the building, maybe he's going to take it as he realizes what kind of opportunity that is. But she's saying that Baker Mayfield will be on his 8th. Baker Mayfield will be working with his 8th offensive coordinator in 8 seasons. So you talk about a guy that's never really had a lot to deal with. Now, he had Todd Monken in 2019. That's the same Todd Monken that's doing great things with Lamar Jackson and also did really well with Georgia as an offensive coordinator here. But Dave Canal, I thought it was all Dave Canal's last year. And then Mayfield plays well this year. So it is Mayfield. I've got to give the guy some credit. And now Liam Cohen is the hot offensive coordinator. And just, you know, Mayfield's a guy that you really don't I never really gave him a lot of credit to the last couple of years, but he's hung in there. And it would be his 8th offensive coordinator if Cohen leaves. Now, nothing's signed here yet. He went back for that second interview because they got rid of Bulky at the last minute. And then Robert Saleh's kind of stuck down there, I guess, in Jacksonville. I'm pretty sure they've already got the Rudy Rule filled now. Job's been open. I mean, geez, the season ended, 3 weeks ago? We've had the wild card round. We've had the division. Now we got the AFC championship game. The season, all this happened that Monday or Tuesday after the regular season ended. So I hope that Jason is going to come on here. I'm killing a little bit of time. And we don't have much time to bring him on. I'll just have to get to the football questions as soon as he comes on. He hasn't got back to me as if there are any issues here. But we shall see. But this is what NFL Rookie Watch also says about Jason. Oh, there he is. There he is. Maybe he's having a little bit of problems there. Jason, I started to say Jason Dart. Jason Patterson here from Pig Trail Nation. Let me get you an audience here. Going to talk a little bit of the Chiefs and whatnot. Come on in here, Jason. How's it going, man? Oh, now you muted yourself.
Uh-oh.
Okay, there you are. I can hear you now. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Can you hear me, buddy?
Yeah, I sure can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you said you were doing some type of promotion with a sponsor today?
Oh, so I have a podcast here at Torchy's Tacos and Rogers that I do each week at 7 p.m. on Thursday nights. And tonight was our night, so that's why you got the background.
It looks good, man. That's awesome, brother.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this. I mean, you cover the SEC. Big Ten wins back-to-back national championships. You got national guys like Colin Cowherd saying, well, is it going to be a money thing now where the SEC is there that there may be a drought in SEC championships? You got Michigan and Ohio State went into Ohio State had $20 million in NIL money. What are your thoughts about that? Is that going to be the truth? Is there going to be a drought there for the SEC to win national championships?
I think that unless they match NIL money, I think there could be.
Okay.
I mean, you look at Ole Miss, look at A&M, for instance. Both of those teams had bigger NIL funds, really, than maybe Texas might be right up there with Ole Miss. But other than that, you had Tennessee they weren't cracking the top 5, top 10 maybe, but not top 5.
Okay.
But as far as it's going with the SEC, they understand that this is a bigger arms race than what they were used to dealing with. Okay. And I think that they're playing a little bit of catch up because in the past, folks that have had a larger NIL pool to collect from didn't really do as well as they thought they would. But now with the expanding to 12 teams, I think that really also changes the landscape. And I think that's where it might set up the Big Ten a lot better than maybe the SEC. But I still think that at the end of the day, you're going to get two Big Ten, two SEC schools. Of those four of those 12, at least 3, 4, or at least a third of the field. Yeah.
And listen, I never thought before this was even thought of that you think about a small town like Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Yeah.
For them to get the coaching that they've got, it just means more down there. You've got Bear Bryant, you've got Nick Saban. There was a guy in between them that won a national championship as well. They may have got caught flat-footed this year, but between A&M, Texas, and of course Alabama and Georgia, I just don't see there being a big drought there. What if Carson Beck don't get hurt?
That
maybe they win the national championship this year.
There's a possibility. I don't know if that would have been the case possibly. And the reason why I say that is because we saw how well Texas played them, even though it was at Texas. You saw what happened with the SEC championship on I'm not going to say it's neutral ground because listen, they played in Atlanta. That's a home game for Georgia if I ever saw one. So you could really say that Alabama and Texas had home and home this year.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Georgia, yeah.
I think that you're going to see probably any 4 of, like you were saying, Alabama, A&M, possibly Ole Miss, Texas, LSU.
Yeah, I forgot about LSU, yeah.
And we'll have to see what's going to happen. If Billy Napier starts turning it around in Florida, they've got a lot of money too.
Oh, really? Well, I do like Lagway. I think Lagway saved his rear end, didn't he?
Yeah. And, I mean, having Lagway another year in that system and being the guy from the start and not Graham Mertz, I think that also gives him that calm of knowing that he has the offense. Just got to get some defense because that's what really killed him at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that guy could be a number one, a first-round pick. I don't know about number one overall, but I think in a few years that Lagway is freaking talent. He's one of the best Florida quarterbacks I've ever seen. I mean, he's got that quick release.
Yeah,
that's way better than Tebow. Tebow's just a big, powerful guy.
I mean, even Richardson, man.
Yeah, Richardson had a stronger arm, but this guy's got quick.
He can drop the dimes, man.
People open,
Yeah.
And that's what they look for in NFL. So Steve Sarkisian got an extension. Will this work out where Is he kind of like Ryan Day a few years ago, where he's getting close, he's getting the criticism, he's got the big money, and it's eventually going to work out for him, and they're going to win a national championship? Or is this going to be like a who was that guy? Jimbo Fisher, where it don't work out and they move off of him? Like
Steve
A&M.
Sarkisian's already been further than Jimbo Fisher has been.
That's true.
I feel like
with Florida State aside, yeah.
True. Yeah. Except for Florida State. And I really feel like Florida State was a different animal than what Texas A&M is and what they have. I feel like with Steve Sarkisian, they're just padding his wallet so he doesn't go to wherever, a Michigan. If something happens to Sharon, they start throwing a ton of cash at Steve. That right there is padding the wallet to make sure he stays where he stays. Because listen, Michigan's not going to be down for too long, especially with the recruiting class that they got and the portal.
That's true, which coming up in April. So do you see him winning a national championship in the next 2 years with an Arch Manning, perhaps?
Give him 3 years, but yes.
I do too. I actually do. I think he's going to win eventually. And I think they're going to find a way to keep Arch, not unless you've heard something otherwise. That maybe
being from Arkansas and telling you that a Texas team is going to win a national championship is like having turpentine in my mouth.
Yes, you are at a Fayetteville. These are just big stories around the way. Talk a little NFL here, man.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that Bills-Baltimore game? I mean, how tight a game was that, man, at the end?
Man, I'm going to tell you what. I feel so sorry for Mark Andrews.
Yeah, did you see what he put out today?
No, I had not.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I let everybody down. And he hadn't spoke to anybody since for today's Thursday, man.
Jeez.
I mean, he's got to see a sports psychologist. That's what I was talking about at the beginning of the program.
You don't want to get the yips, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what he got. That's what he got. That's a golf term, everybody.
And he's so sure-handed, especially in the red zone. That's what was so mind-boggling. Maybe it was because he was on the corner, because if you think about it, a lot of his touchdowns come in the middle of the field.
Yes.
And this one happened to be on the outside. And for the love of God, I have no idea why they were not trying to run him through up the middle like they usually do, like they have in the past. Maybe it was because of the snow. Yeah.
And what about the strip, too? He got fumbled. The guy just took it right out of his hands.
Yeah, I saw that, too. And that was – you don't expect to have that much snow during a game, except for whenever you get closer to game day. There's nothing that you can prepare for that. And I agree. Cold hand gloves.
Gloves.
Man,
they'd be breathing on those gloves and put some 98.6 to do anything. I mean, John Smoltz, pitcher for the Braves, he went to a sports psychologist, said it changed his life. So did A-Rod.
Smoltz, whenever he made that transition from starting pitcher to going to the bullpen, and he really honestly made his bread being a closer at that point. And I think that there's a lot of people that really know him for being more of a closer than a starter, because at the time, him, Steve Avery, Greg Maddux, all those guys were really battling who was really the best on that staff. And that was so much fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but he talked about it. That's what I think Andrew should do. I mean, I've also heard that he just had bad games in the playoffs in general. So he's a teeth clincher. He's Peyton Manning in the first few years. Kind of like Lamar Jackson himself. You think they're ever going to win a Super Bowl with Lamar?
I don't know. Them adding Derrick Henry was their way of letting the rest of the NFL know that they were serious. Yeah. Yeah. And it didn't work out the first year. They've got a couple of more years left in the tank for sure with Derrick. And I think if they keep building that defense the way that they have, and keep building it up and keeping those I'm gonna tell you what, the wide receivers for the Ravens were outstanding this year. A
Yeah,
bunch
they
of
were.
guys. It really reminded me of the Patriots, where there were some guys that you really didn't quite know about that were really kind of small and shifty, but they
Yeah.
were always having that knack of getting open in space.
Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah. Zay Flowers wasn't there, but Bateman was a first-round pick. Aguilar's got some good hands. He can get open. Sometimes he drops it, but and likely, like I was saying, they can move off of Andrews. He's in the last year of his contract.
Yep.
They're going to have some cap issues because Lamar's getting paid a lot of money. Lamar may get his third MVP. Any quarterback that's won 2 MVPs in the history of the game, all of them have won Super Bowls. I was not a Lamar fan at first. I dogged him out up until about a couple of years ago or last year, be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I think the guy's really got that grit to really be successful in the NFL, and he's not all about the money and stuff. I think eventually he will win one if they're patient with him, like
I
Peyton
think so, too.
eventually did.
Well, you think about it, John Harbaugh's he's been to the top. He had,
Yeah.
and so if he hadn't been to a Super Bowl before, I would probably say this might not work out.
That's
But
true. That's true.
He has. They've been to the top.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
I don't know. I think that they have the horses to do it. I think that it's kind of like MJ in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Having to go and getting some of their lumps and figuring a couple of things out.
Losing
Because
to
listen,
the Pistons, the Celtics, man. Yeah.
they've been toe-to-toe with Kansas City. They've been toe-to-toe with Buffalo.
Yeah.
They're there. They're on the precipice of it. They just have to find just that little bit of extra oomph to break through. I think they can, though.
How do you think this game is going to be called between Buffalo and KC? I know you saw the rumblings about the ref conspiracies.
Oh, God, yes.
Are they going to let them play, or are they going to be watching Mahomes with the,
I think that the
gingerly?
league has to be at least aware and present in some of the things that have happened. Like, for instance, the hit that Pat took last week that they called, a roughing the passer.
Yeah.
That the contact was made on the shoulder pad and not on the helmet itself.
Right.
And those sorts of things, they have got to really pay special close attention to.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they don't want to be the story. Unfortunately, a lot of tabloids, writers, and fans alone have made them the story and not Kansas City sometimes itself, because I feel like that's kind of overshadowed their run over the last, I would say, probably 12 months. Because let's face it, they got some calls during that Ravens game last year in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Fans don't want to see that this time.
Right. Do you think they're just going to say, long as it's not blatant, they're just going to let them play Sunday?
I think so. I think at the end of the day, you got to let men line up against men and play it out.
Yeah.
Play it out. Because if you don't, then you just, if you're a Roger Goodell, you're just creating a bigger conspiracy theory for him.
And the league will listen, unlike other leagues. Titans just hired this guy, Mike Borgonzi. Have you ever spoke with him?
No, I have not.
Okay,
No.
he's assistant there up in Kansas City. 16 years, man.
That right there tells me that, I wonder how much dealing that they had, or at least in the background with him, with that trade last year. And then
With
the
Speed,
Titans saw, hey, this guy is pretty on top of it, because I saw whenever when they let go their GM, I thought, I wonder how this
Greg
is going to.
Carthon.
Yeah, I wonder how that was going to turn out. And then they get the guy from Kansas City. It almost kind of reminds me of San Antonio, like whenever Sam Presti left to go take over the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
That's some great pieces. that was starting to get farmed out a little bit.
Wow. Well, I hope he is a Sam Presti. Yeah. I love that guy.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what, he's built a second run in Oklahoma City too. One of the smallest markets in the NBA has built a second run of top talent. And
they may win it this year, man. I mean, they're young, but they got the horses, man.
They do.
Yeah. What do you think about Sunday? By the way, is there any injuries that are you guys concerned with any Kansas City injuries right now?
I was actually about to pull up because I just my communication stuff here just a little bit with from their.
I haven't heard of anything, but I always like to get
Yeah, let me give me just a second.
Yeah,
here.
man, of course. Great game. I can't wait. This is like a heavyweight fight,
Okay, so very first opening statement from Andy Reid this afternoon. All right, no injuries to mention.
Wow.
So
ready to go.
You think
how's
about
this thing play out, man? I think Buffalo's got a shot this year.
I think they do too. It wouldn't surprise me if this thing comes down to overtime again.
Woo.
Because Kansas City has got this knack of really wearing down a game to where it's a possession for possession game. Like you saw with what the Patriots did in their run for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
It never was a blowout. It always came down to a couple of possessions where they were just a little bit better than you, executed better, and didn't make any mistakes. I feel like that's the way that Kansas City has had this run. That nobody saw them going 15-1 this year. Whenever I was on with you earlier in the season, I thought they were going to blow out the Bengals. They didn't blow them out.
Remember, that come down to a bad, the people called a bad call. The 4th and 15, remember that?
4th and 15, and they got the pass interference. Guy coming across his back like that. I mean, those sorts of things happen, but it seems like it's only a couple of possessions, which really irritates fans.
Yeah.
Which also, you know who the number one conspiracy theorists are?
Who's that?
Disgruntled fans. Disgruntled fans.
Yeah, like you said, I've listened to it for 20 years. My dad go on and on about the guy's overrated, the league wants them, blah, blah, blah. I said, man, they're just good, Yeah. And the reason why a lot of these games are close because everybody gets up for them. It's the A game for the company. What did I want to say I heard they went 8 games without a turnover.
Yes.
That's just, that's flawless football, man.
Yeah.
How do you see this thing playing out? Are you leaning Kansas City or Buffalo in your personal opinion?
I'm giving the home team the advantage on this one just for the simple fact it's in Kansas City.
Right.
The weather is going to be a little nicer.
Really?
A little bit nicer. I got to double check on that, but where I'm at, because I'm about 3 hours south of Kansas City, we're supposed to have 50s this weekend. Beforehand, it's been blistering cold.
Yeah.
And now that's what's going to be fun to see. Give me just 2 seconds here.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Sounds like a barn burner if it's going to be nicer, not super windy and cold.
33. But you know what?
Oh, that's great for them.
Yeah. Especially
those
with
games are like 2 degrees sometimes.
in 12 feet and 12 inches of snow. Here's the thing that I look at. You've got Isaiah Pacheco that's coming off of injury. He's looked pretty good. You've got Samaje Perine, which has been a very serviceable third down back. And then you're also mixing into that mix with Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, he got the touchdown I thought Pacheco was going to get the other day. Cost me a parlay.
Because it's funny because all the betting sites are all over the place with Kansas City on who's going to score a touchdown because there's so many options. Because DeAndre Hopkins hasn't had quite the season that people thought that he would. I thought that he would kind of fit that Juju Smith-Schuster mold when he got here, which has kind of happened because there's so many weapons for Pat to choose from. Because, you've got Travis, which had a monster game. He was vintage Travis Kelce, especially that touchdown that he caught while Pat was falling down. That was insane.
Man, He's always there in the playoffs, man. He is just Mr. Reliable. And, of course, if they win, Tennessee will get that 4th-round pick. So, apparently, he's played 60% of the snaps. He ain't done much. So, Nashville people, Chad, maybe you should pull for Kansas City just to get that 4th-round pick.
The necessary evils of a sports fan, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Who do you like in that NFC game, man?
I'm giving the edge to the home team. I'm giving them to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I think.
Or I'm talking about Commanders. I'm sorry.
Oh, Commanders and Eagles?
Yeah.
Guy that I'm friends with works for the Commanders, and I've got to pull for them. I'd like to see Jaden Daniels, give him a shot.
That would be
I know
nice.
He's a rookie.
He's 24. I mean, he's the age of a lot of these players that's won Super Bowls. He's not your typical rookie, man.
No.
I do Uber on the side. I picked up this lady that does the balloons for the Eagles, and, man, she was just arrogant. I've mentioned a podcast to her and a live stream show, asking her to bring – she was so dismissive and arrogant. And I've got a friend of mine that's a big Eagles guy. He's an Eagles super fan. But just between me, you, and the audience, I love to see them get beat. They're pretty obnoxious as a whole, man.
And here's the thing. Philly fans breathe, live, eat, sleep, and die hate sometimes.
They're kind of like a pro version of Alabama to a certain extent. To a certain extent to my Alabama fans, no offense.
Minus the winning.
Jason Patterson, hey, I've ran out of time. We're having so much fun here.
Yeah.
Plug your shows, man. I don't want to get any of the times mixed up there, brother.
What's that?
Plug your shows, man. The Pig Trail Nation shows and whatnot.
So every Thursday night on hogville.net, we have our live show here at Torchy's Tacos every Thursday at 7 p.m. I know that kind of runs concurrent with you. Yeah. But you can go back and watch all of our shows. I just had Marshall Foreman, former Razorback running back. He was on with me this evening. He's got some great family lineage. His cousin, first cousin, George Foreman.
Did he work with who?
His first cousin is George Foreman.
Oh, wow.
And
I love George Foreman. Great guy, seems like.
I love Big George, but Marshall does a great job every week. He was doing our pregame show in Fayetteville before each home game. He's on board to do it next year. Excited about that as well. And we're every Thursday night. We'll always be live talking Razorback football, off season, all kinds of stuff. I mean, the portal is a living, breathing animal in its own right, and so whenever there's information that comes out of that, I mean,
April 15th, right, Jason?
Yep.
Tax day and transfer portal.
Yeah, and that about the right truth. Holy crap! I'm telling you what. Some of these kids don't even know what taxes are. They've got to get a CPA to handle their own money. I'm telling you, man.
Woo!
It's a murky world out there, especially with how things with the NIL have came down as far as rulings go. For instance, with the NCAA coming on board saying that you can commit to one school, back out of it, and go to another school in the same semester. Now, I know that this is.
I hope they change that eventually. Golly.
I hope so too, but I don't know if it's going to change anytime soon. But my far-fetched thought is, what if you got a kid that played for Georgia?
Yeah.
Gets into the portal, commits to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's playing the national championship.
Oh, God.
He enrolls with Notre Dame and is already in school before the national championship. Is he eligible now?
That is insane. Of course, shouldn't be, but they got to put some guardrails on this, man. I had a Ohio State fan on yesterday said that, and he's on cloud nine because they won a national championship. Yeah, and he even says that. So go figure.
Or if you enroll at Alabama loses to Notre Dame. They have already committed to Alabama. They unenroll at Alabama, then commit to Notre Dame. That's the precedence you've set so far.
Man. Yeah. Yeah, and I'd still have, call me naive, I'm pretty optimistic they're going to get it squared away.
I think so, but you got to have U.S. government step in at this point.
I know, and they've already stepped in a couple of times, and
yeah,
had to send an email to Trump's office and put that in your executive orders.
He's been signing a hell of a lot of them lately. Might as well sign one more, right?
Yeah, just show the little menu. No more 2 transfers, and that's it.
I'm going to tell you what. You're going to have a kid come on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
It's going to be like Jack Smith, Alabama, LSU, Notre Dame, Texas.
Yeah. Sometimes they say like they're high school and stuff, and that is funny, man, because I'm thinking, which one is he going to claim,
Yeah.
The first or the last. Jason Patterson, everybody. Hey, thanks again, man. Hey, listen, if they come on, if they make it to the Super Bowl, you think you can come back on?
Always.
All right, brother. Hey, have a good one, man.
You too. Thanks, Robert.
See you, buddy. Jason Patterson, everybody. I'll be back on tomorrow. I can't believe tomorrow's Friday, but tomorrow is Friday with the Mad New Yorker. We'll go over these games and we'll pick the AFC Championship game. And, of course, the NFC Championship game. We'll have our Super Bowl picks here. So have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow. Same time, same place here on The Real Sports.